All righty. Well, aloha kakahiaka, aloha Friday, everyone. You are attending the pre-game show to our Aloha Friday Hawaii show. If you are watching this after the fact, if you're not watching this live, you could actually fast forward about 5 minutes. But if you're here with us live, then we want to welcome you to our little pre-game show. You'll notice there's only two of us here for today. Scotty, first of all, how's it going there, Scotty?
Good. Nice day right here at the base of Diamond Head. It's a little muggy today. The trades aren't blowing quite as hard today, so you can feel the humidity a little bit more, but it's good.
A little bit of humidity, but everything's relative over there. And our regular guy is back. Jim, how's it? Jim's been here every single show. God bless you, Jim. Welcome back. Good to see you. Yeah. So let me explain to everybody kind of what's happening for today and why there's only Scott and I. Dylan Nonaka, our other good friend, is serving our country. He is part of the National Guard, and he was actually planning on streaming in today. But there's been the nature of the game has got a couple of developments, and he's not been able to attend. So, Dylan, thank you for serving our country. We really appreciate your dedication, and we wish you well. And we're going to see you at the next show in 2 weeks. Also, we've got who else is coming around? Heidi, our Maui girl. Heidi's on vacation. She's enjoying a vacay, and we tried to bring her on board. We did bring her on board, and she'll be with us at our next show as well. So, Scott, I apologize. It's just you and me today, man. It's just going to be you and me.
Well, the good news is the rest of our guests didn't get blown away by a hurricane, right?
We all man, how about that one? Did we get? There's Teresa. Hey, Teresa, welcome back. Good to see you. This is great to have like our regulars, like part of the family here. We're kind of gathering around the campfire there. And James, how's it, James? Good to see you again. Everyone's kind of gathering around for our little discussion here. Terrific. Yeah, did we get lucky? I couldn't believe what I actually posted a video on the channel about the weather in August and hurricanes. Like that was, there were sirens going off at 11 o'clock, right? It was like, make your final preparations. This thing is coming. Man, did we get lucky. Unbelievable.
Not only lucky, it was actually almost a strange feeling and a strange pattern of what happened. We had more wind the day before and more wind the day after than we did that day. It got to a point where the air just died and there was no wind whatsoever and just a light misting rain. And that was all that we got on this side. I had gone down to Sans Souci, move furniture in. I was, prepping, getting all the furniture off the lanais and stuff. And it was good to see, a false alarm effectively, kind of like what the pattern's been. So.
I think what's so remarkable about this hurricane, this is Hurricane Douglas we're talking about, was that it was, of course, we're all tracking this thing, and it was making like a direct line for Oahu. And it was like, this thing is coming. And if you actually look at the track, it literally kind of went around. It kind of turned. It was coming straight forward, so it was moving west, right? So it's moving west, and it turned a little bit to the north, and then went up and kind of around, and then it continued its track, which was so bizarre. It was like it literally went consciously went around Oahu. It was amazing.
Yeah, and we also seem to be on the south side, on kind of the side that had less winds to begin with. So it was almost that double effect that just kind of it literally left us with almost no weather. Is what it felt like.
It was incredible.
And it actually produced probably one of the most beautiful sunsets I've seen in probably about 10 years here, just sitting out here watching it. There were so many people posting on Facebook.
I could imagine. Jim asks us a really good question. Hey, Peter, where do people who live in Hawaii go on vacation? Scott, where does everybody in Hawaii go on vacation?
Well, a lot of times I go to the outer islands because every island is so different. For me, the Big Island is so special. Maui is a little kind of in between. So I usually go to Kauai or Big Island, but then I go on snowboarding trips. I go to the mountains to get away. I do a lot of traveling. I do 6 to 8 trips a year. So I go all over Spain, Brazil,
Scott, I love you, but that's all the wrong answer. Everyone in Hawaii goes to Vegas for vacation. That's where, right? See, you forgot, right? Everyone goes to Vegas.
Yeah,
That's where everybody.
I'm the one person that refuses to go to Vegas. I love all the natural beauty here. I don't understand the concept. Why am I going to this man-made thing in the desert? It's like that. It doesn't appeal to me at all.
I hear you. I'm not a big Vegas fan myself, but Jim, everyone in Hawaii goes to Vegas. That's where the locals. There's actually the California Hotel, if I'm not mistaken. If you go to if you want a slice of Hawaii people, when you go to Las Vegas, stay at the California Hotel. That is where all the locals go, and you could kind of rub elbows with the locals there. Anyway,
you do before you come here. You want a Hawaii prep, go there. Then you can come here. You'll get used to the local.
You'll hang out with the local crowd. You'll eat local food. You'll meet local people. That's where you go. Yeah.
The seventh island.
Seventh Island. Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's get started here. It is officially showtime. It's 9. I got 9:01 over here. Really glad that you're all here with us. I really do look forward to this show and welcome everybody. Let's rock and roll here. We're going to start with our little COVID update. So at our last exciting episode, we predicted so far our predictions have all been true. We predicted further pushbacks of the date. Here's another prediction that is almost guaranteed to be true. Right now, today, as of right now, this is August 7th, 2020. The official opening date is September 1st. I don't think that's going to happen. The prediction, and I know Scott agrees, we've talked about this before, the prediction is that they're going to push that date back imminently, and that date's going to be pushed back to at least October 1st. I got a couple of snippets over here. I'm not going to read them, but there's a bunch of articles that give you sort of all the signals. Neighbor island mayors to the governor reinstate the inner island quarantine, keep the schools closed. Lieutenant Governor Green hints at a potential 30-day lockdown. Ige said Hawaii may delay plans to reopen travel amid COVID-19 surge. The unscientific poll says, keep it closed. So everything is pointing in the direction that this COVID thing is going to remain closed. And what happened yesterday, just yesterday, I had to add this slide on. Just yesterday was that the island of Oahu, Honolulu City and County, came up with this proclamation, this act with care, or act with care, do not gather order, which I'm not going to read all that, but you can. Essentially, the parks and the beaches are closed. You can still go swim into the water, but you can't hang out at the park. I think what they're doing is that they believe a large part of the outbreaks were due to large gatherings, large parties at parks, large parties at beaches, and I believe that's where they kind of thought the spread was due. So, folks, I'm sorry to tell you, this is where it is. And Scott, we got to talk about what this means on the real estate side on the 10-1. Let me kind of switch to my little slide over here you could roll your market update into this, Scott, and fill us in on what you think about that. What you think is going on. We need to talk about what people are going to do here, because this thing is going to go on sort of ad nauseum.
Yeah, I mean, I actually noticed some of the gatherings in the park. I go down to Kapiolani Park quite a bit. I'll do my swims down there, and I work out around the park outdoors. And I did notice quite a few people. It was interesting. You'd see 10, 15, 20 people gathering as friends, and they're all just interacting. And I think we have this this tendency to, hey, it's our friends. They're good. They're just like us. They're not going to get it, right? They don't have it. So I understand what they're doing and the why, but then, okay, now how does that affect us? Because that inter-island quarantine is now in effect. Let's see, not if you're coming to Oahu, right? But if you're going to the outer islands. So they effectively put that quarantine on people from Oahu going to inter-island.
Yeah, so let's clarify. Thank you for bringing that up. We should clarify that. So previously they had there was no quarantine if you went in between islands. Now what we're saying is, if you go from Oahu to one of the neighbor islands, you're still subject to a 14-day quarantine. Is that right, Scott?
Yep, correct.
Because I guess there was some sort of a loophole that was going on, that people were coming here and then they were leaving Oahu to go to the neighbor island, and that was their way to skip out of quarantine, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yep. So they've got that one out of there. So yeah, that's a bummer. So it is what it is. What's so give us what's been kind of happening on the let me, wrong slide here. There we go. Give us a quick, kind of a boots on the ground. What's sort of been happening on the real estate market?
Yeah, it's still really interesting, to see. Obviously, the longer the economic stuff goes out, it's got to play out into the real estate market. But average price is up 4% from July this year to last year, and there's still just restricted inventory. There's 20% less listings and 30% more sales. So the buyers, there's way more buyers in the market. The buyers are savvy because of the interest rates. So of the eight transactions I've done in the last probably 2 months, 7 of them were competing with multiple offers. So you have more buyers competing on each property. It's still strong. And the question is, how long can that sustain itself for? I don't see it changing for at least the next 3 to 4 months. I think it will stay in that consistent pattern. What goes on with the economy will eventually affect it, but I don't know when.
Do you have any sense of what's sort of driving this? I mean, we still got that same thing that you mentioned before, right? Because you've said several times in previous shows that sort of Waikiki is its own kind of bubble. And that market's kind of its own kind of animal. And then there's sort of the non-Waikiki market, the greater Oahu market. Do you have any sense of what's going on with that?
Yeah, it's interest rates. And I just got another transaction in escrow yesterday from a San Francisco buyer, sight unseen, major fixer property too, and they're gonna buy it not having ever been here. So we're seeing more of that comfort of doing the sight unseen from people familiar off island that are wanting to be here. But it's interest rate driven. Interest rates dropped effectively like 30% a couple of months ago. That creates a huge savings on that monthly mortgage payment side. So the people that can do it are going to step in and do it. It makes their housing way more affordable. In fact, you almost can pay the rent the same what you were paying for rent. You can pay for the housing payment. So why not own at that point?
Sure. So good old economics, right? The interest rates go down, prices went down. Essentially, prices went down, even though the listing price may have not gone down. The actual, the price, your mortgage goes down. The price, therefore, the price has gone down, economically speaking.
Most people buy based on their mortgage payment, right? So it doesn't really matter what the price is. Effectively, it's what the mortgage payment is, and that equated almost to a 20% price drop is what it equated out to.
Holy moly, that's a huge price, of course. So now so I see where we're going here. So this price drop now has sort of released some pent up demand that was not available at that price point. So that's going to work its way through whatever the market forces are going to buy what they're going to buy, and then we're going to see where things are going to go.
Correct.
Hopefully pending there's no economic apocalypse that we're going to have to be dealing with. Yeah, great. Okay, so let's move on, folks. If you've got any questions, pop them in the comments. I'll do the best I can to kind of sort through them. I am curious, and Scott, I mean, maybe we could talk about this later as well, but I really am curious for those of you that are watching right now. What's your perspective? Are you gonna wait right now? Basically, this thing is on hold until October. And I hate to say may go longer. I remember a long time ago in the early part of this, I got a comment from somebody saying, I'm planning for a vacation in September. Do you think it's going to be around till September? And my answer always was, I don't know. But I do know that if we're still shut down in October, we're going to have a lot bigger problems than the quarantine economically. I don't know where that's all going to go. But I am curious, folks, if you're thinking about buying in Hawaii, or if you thought about buying a home in Hawaii, are you being held back? Are you not going to be doing this now until quarantine is over? Or like Scott had mentioned, are you considering sight unseen? Or would you consider a longer stay for a month or two to make your decision? So I'd like to get some feedback from that on everybody. So that's that. Okay, let's move on over here. We're going to go to our first question here, which is COVID impact on leasehold. So this is from Tom of Oxford, and Tom says, Aloha, do you think the double whammy of COVID-19, like no tourists since March and high unemployment on the mainland, will have an impact on leasehold condo sales, especially for people who may be over leveraged, like the VRBO folks. They've now faced a significant monthly nut, like a high homeowners fees, insurance, taxes, and rent, and possibly a mortgage. I've been watching leasehold condos on Kauai, and there's a lot of inventory. Like, for example, there's over 20 units in one complex in Poipu. The 20 units in Poipu have their leasehold fee reset in 2021, and I suspect are trying to bail out now. I've seen condos dropping 5K, 10K, 25K at a clip, including asking prices below what they paid. Mahalo, what do you think? So, Scott, how do you respond to Tom? I mean, obviously, what Tom's talking about, right? The whole VRBO thing. What's going to happen with where do you see the market going with these over leveraged VRBO properties? And there's another twist over here about lease. So maybe kind of let's hit this in sort of a two-part question. Let's first hit what do you think is going to happen with the market on these over leveraged VRBO properties that no longer have cash flow? Let's hit that one first, and then let's talk about this thing with the lease expiring in 2021.
Yeah, so the first part of that over leveraged VRBO market, absolutely. I mean, if people don't have any income coming in and they have carrying costs, it will affect them. However, the big difference, and Dylan hit on this on our previous show, which was really important, is to get a loan now versus when you got a loan prior to the 2008 crash. The banks are much more stringent in their loan guidelines now, and have been for this whole period since 2009, 2010. And people have had to put significantly more money down. In fact, there's some vacation rental units where you have to put 50% cash down to be able to get a loan. So automatically that gives you not only enough skin in the game, but reduces that monthly obligation or those carrying costs significantly. Will COVID have an effect when you don't have any rental income coming in? Absolutely. There's going to be some of those. But I do think it will take a little more time to play out than it would have in like 2008, simply because of how loan guidelines were set up. We've been on this market run. You can put them on the market now and still sell them and probably not have to go into foreclosure. But yeah, I do think it'll have an effect.
So great. So clearly there is going to be, again, we can't say how there won't be an effect, right? I mean, I think this thing is it's kind of inevitable. So that's that. Now, this other one about this lease expiring. Now, we don't want to go down this sort of rabbit hole of leasehold. I've got a couple of links, and I'd be happy to share them with anybody if you have any questions on what leasehold properties are. But there's a lease is going to expire in 2021. So today's 2020. Why do you think, Scott, can you explain why prices seem to be dropping very quickly for these units in Poipu? Maybe not specifically Poipu, but why would prices be dropping so quickly if there's a lease that's going to be renegotiated next year?
Yeah, so I love this question actually, because this is good about leasehold. And I would tell everyone, you've got 3 great videos about leasehold on your website. So check those out. That gives you a good background on it. But I don't see COVID as being the big driver for this decision on the leasehold dumping of properties, so to speak. What you have is leasehold properties aren't as stable. There's a fear of the unknown that comes with leasehold, because at the end of a leasehold, at the end of the lease, say in 6 years, there's a reversionary clause in those that the landowner can take the units back from the owner. So you're effectively walking away from it. So with a renegotiation period coming up, if you have a lease rent of say $200 right now in any year, you don't know what that lease rent amount is going to be. It's going to be renegotiated between the unit owners and the landowner. Why do you want to buy in that? That you really have to entice someone to buy in that, especially with a 6-year lease left on it, on that property. That's not a very desirable property. So yeah, you're going to have to discount your price to move that property for someone else to buy it. Add on top of it, if it's in a transient, VRBO location where that's what you're doing out of it, and you just lost the income. Okay, now you definitely don't have a reason to buy it.
You've got a double whammy now, right? Yep. You got the insecurity, you got the insecurity of the VRBO piece going on. You know when the market's going to open up. Plus, you have this lease, and you don't know what the lease rent is going to be.
Yep.
Going after this. One thing I mentioned in one of the videos is, if the last time the lease was negotiated was 20 years ago, you've got 20 years of pricing that's going to be built into this next lease payment, and you might have a skyrocketing lease. You have no idea what's going on. So that's why the prices are plummeting,
And
15, 20K at a time.
Totally. And think about who owns all the cards in that negotiation, the landowner. You're obligated to pay the lease rent, right? And you don't really have a whole lot of leverage in a negotiation in that portion. Now, they got a way that they do these things and massage the owners and the landowner through that negotiation. So it doesn't get it. There is a cap on what they can do, but you're not sitting in a good position. And with these types of properties, once you get it below about 20 years left on that lease, you can't get financing. You're paying cash at that point. So you're buying into something that's diminishing in value until there's no years left on that lease. Where I see that, Kohala Beach Apartments, I get a lot of people calling me. Kohala Beach Apartments is leasehold on the ocean with like 6 years left on the lease. They're like 200,000. So they're very appealing. People go, hey, what's up with this? The buyers that we see buying in that are significantly older in their years, that have a significant amount of wealth, that are willing to buy in there and live and enjoy the lifestyle and don't care about what happens to that property at the end of the lease.
Yeah, it's a whole different kind of a perspective. This is great. You know what? I'm going to back up to this slide because I want to catch a couple of questions over here that popped in, so are really good.
Sure.
So one of them is Paul here. So Paul says, Aloha, we're eyeing a property in Volcano, Big Island. Assuming we can get over there from Seattle, are agents able to show houses with the virus going around? Mahalo. Scott, I think you can hit that. Dylan had talked about that in previous issues. You want to kind of hit that one?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of issues here. For one, if you come over from Seattle, you're technically supposed to quarantine for 14 days, for 2 weeks. So you have that element you have to deal with. We are allowed to show people properties, and we're going out and doing it. How I've been doing it is I'm saying, hey, have your own rental car. I'll have my car. Let's meet there. That's the safest for everybody. Other agents aren't necessarily doing that. They will have clients come in their car. We have wipes, gloves, masks, and things such as that. So we are able to do the showings, but the biggest animal you have in this situation is the 14-day quarantine. You got to come here and stay for 2 weeks before you can start looking at property.
I think that's the most important thing, and I really want to stress that because the 14-day quarantine is a real sensitive thing for local culture. It's emerged as a very important thing. Local folks understandably get very, very upset when they find out about people that are breaking quarantine. So I would say to Paul, so it sounds, the answer to Paul, like to summarize what you said, Scott, is yes, we're able to show properties if you've passed your 14-day quarantine. That's the key. You have to pass the 14-day quarantine to make this work. Go ahead.
Can I answer one more thing with that? I mean, we're to the point with technology and things that if you're familiar with the area, we're doing videos and we're going along doing a lot of FaceTime work. That's where a lot of these people are buying sight unseen. We're doing a lot of FaceTime work, and that's not just at the property that's out in front. That's what the neighbors look like, walking around, maybe even a block. That is another alternative, but real estate is a very touch and feel kind of thing, and people want to get that feel. So if you're not comfortable with that element, then you got to be here, and then you got to do the quarantine.
So Teresa asks, so are these people that are buying sight unseen now, how are they managing their required inspections? Scott, how are you doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question too. I work with a couple of inspectors where they're doing videos. They'll do a summary video, and they'll do videos of anything that becomes an item, an issue. We'll note it in the report. The reports are sent out via PDFs with photos and links to like a YouTube video or a YouTube clip for each individual item where you can see it in a video format. You're not here, but you get almost the same feeling as being here. And then if we need to investigate that further, then I'll dialogue with the client on the phone. We can get other professionals in here, whether it's an electrician or a plumber or roofer or whatever the issue is, to have a look at it. It also helps actually now because I can send that video link to some of my guys, my electrician, my plumber, et cetera, and they can look at it without even having to go out if it's fairly minor. So it's actually helped the process.
Yeah, that's interesting. We have another one over here, and I wish that Dylan, you are missed. We got James Menard says, I've been looking at the 3-acre lots on the Big Island in Kohala Ranch as a place to build. Thoughts on this area? Now, Scott, normally, Jason, our Big Island expert, Dylan Nonaka, is usually would take this question, but you did pop it in. Scott has lived on the Big Island, and he is familiar with the area. That doesn't have the boots on the ground that Dylan does. But Scott, can you speak to these 3-acre lots in Kohala Ranch?
Absolutely. Love Kohala Ranch. It's a great spot. It's actually right up about a half mile up the road from my family's restaurant. Yeah, I mean, the main thing to consider with Kohala Ranch is that it's a private water system, and the water there is significantly more expensive than it is from public water system. So that's the main thing you need to look at and understand is how they handle the water rights in that area and the cost of it effectively is what it is. But it's a gated community. They're ag lots. So they have 3, 5, 10 acre, 20 acre parcels that go up the hillside. And it kind of depends on where you want to be, whether you're lower, it's more dry and arid, and you're looking down the coastline. They have beautiful views, but lower you are, the easier it is to get down to the lower highway and go into places that you need to go. The higher up, the cooler it is, the greener it is, the more rain you'll get that comes through, and the bigger the acreage parcels become. But it's a great area. But the main thing is the water. Got to understand that.
Got to have the microphone on, even though my screen tells me I'm muted here. Sorry about that, everybody. I was saying this is the part where it does really help. This is where you really want to work with a realtor who's got the local knowledge. It kind of almost goes without saying. There's so many instances like George here just popped this one on here. I've seen homes on the Big Island that look very nice on the inside with nice landscaping, but when they have a picture of the surrounding properties, it's all black from volcano damage. I don't know if I call that volcano damage, but black from lava flows. Does the insurance become an issue? Is this a red flag property? I think I'll take a quick stab at this, and just from a layman's point of view. I'm not a realtor. Last week, Dylan had showed us a map of lava flows, lava zones on the Big Island, and you definitely your risk level is based on what lava zone that you're in, and if you're in a high risk lava zone, I don't know if insurance is possible or not, but if it isn't possible, it'll be much more expensive at the very, very least if it's available. Scott, do you want to speak to that quickly about the lava zones?
Yeah, there's one element or two elements that we used to talk about with that. So if a property has damage from lava, I'm assuming it's in lava zone 1, which means you cannot get insurance, which means you are paying cash. If you're in, and Dylan said last week when I asked him the question, hey, when I was there and I did real estate, lava zone 2 meant you were going to Lloyd's of London to get insurance. If you want to get a loan on a property, one of the conditions of getting a loan is that you have to have the hazard insurance on the property. If you can't get the hazard insurance, you can't get the loan. So that's where insurance becomes really important when in buying a property in the different lava zones. And that's why I asked Dylan that question last week. But Dylan did say lava zone 2 and up, you can pretty much get regular insurance, which means you can also get financing on those properties.
So basically the word is you want to know where the lava zones are. Yep. You want to look at that lava zone map, and you want to certainly stay out of lava zone 1, which is, lava is oozing onto the property practically. And 2 and up. That's the quick and short answer.
And I've always said 3 and up. In fact, this Aloha shirt is a Nanny Goose shirt, which I bought a lot on the Volcano Golf Course, which was lava zone 3. I was half mile from the actual Halimau going off, but I was uphill and I was in lava zone 3. So a much safer place. In fact, there's areas on the Kono side that are the exact same lava zone. I always looked for 3 and up for myself.
Yeah. I mean, I can, hard to disagree with that one. This is by the way, I just want to thank everybody. The questions are great. They're making the show fun. We've got a lot of questions planned, but I like the live ones are the best. So here's one from Michael. Said, would you guys agree that it is more likely than not Hawaii will not reopen to mainland visitors this year? Oh, God help us, man. God help us. Scott, what's your sense on that?
Well, I will say that I have not been real thrilled with the governor's how he's been speaking for a while, but I do believe I noticed a change in what he's been saying in the past 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, and I feel like he's getting significant pressure at this point from the economic side, and I do think we're going to start to shift in that direction more dramatically at this point. I think there's starting to be too much pressure on him to open things back up to the tourist, and I see it prior to the end of the year, personally.
So if I had to make a prediction, I would say that Hawaii will definitely be reopened to visitors before the end of the year. If this goes until January 1st, I mean, Hawaii's economy is primarily dependent on tourism, and that doesn't just go for local jobs. Scott, to your point, the governor is looking at his own budget, and he's realizing Hawaii has a constitutional clause that states that the state's budget must be balanced, and so he's got to work with the money he's going to have, and he's seeing that that money is vaporizing at an alarming rate. I think they already talked about they have got something like $2.3 billion in cuts that they're going to have to make for the upcoming fiscal year. These are huge deals, so there is going to be motivation. So Mike, I think to Michael, to summarize the answers, I think we believe that it's going to open up before the end of the year, generally speaking. When and what the conditions are and how it's all going to fly, can't really tell you. But that's the general one. James comes back with a good one. In the current in the current market, how much better is it if you are an all cash buyer? Scott, does that matter now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're not having to get financed, loan guidelines got tighter once COVID happened. And in fact, in this last transaction I just closed in Kailua, the lender was scrutinizing any decrease in pay on the buyer's side much more than they had in the past. So if you're a cash buyer, it's going to give you a better position because you eliminate the financing contingencies, which can be problematic. When you're getting into multiple offer situations, which is a majority of a lot of times what we're seeing over here, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to save on the price, but it does mean you're probably the strongest buyer competing with everyone. And if you have two similar priced offers and yours is cash and the other is financing, the seller is most likely going to go with the one that's cash. You can also close faster. I mean, I closed a cash deal in 12 days one time, where financing is going to take you 30 days plus. So there's another element to that you can negotiate which is that closing time frame.
I think the big thing that struck me when we talked about this previously was how much more strict that lenders are being, how much they're really doing their due diligence, again, like a couple days before closing. Yep. And so there's all kinds of issues over there. Great. I think we touched on this earlier, Matthew. Will current difficulties lead to lower prices? I think the quick answer to that is they haven't materialized yet in some markets, but they have shown themselves in other markets. Scott, did you want to kind of hit this one real fast?
Yeah, and I love answering this one because I look at it this way. Lower prices just happen, and we talked about it earlier. It's in the interest rate, and it's in a lower mortgage payment, and it's to the tune of 15 to 20% is what it equated out to in that mortgage payment savings, right? It equates out to basically a 20% price drop, which has rarely happened in our market from an actual pricing standpoint. I see it happening in Waikiki, your second home markets where there's vacation rental units, and that's essentially what you're doing. You're not doing the long-term rentals, or you're not in workforce housing, local housing. But I don't see it in the short run, and I'm not paying attention to that because the borrowing power has gotten so affordable. I feel the discount has come already, and I'm taking advantage of that to set myself up for the next 10 years in owning the property.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Scott. That's a great Great response. So Teresa asks about, she says, Peter, speaking of utilities, Peter, in one of your videos, you were talking about the electrical infrastructure and how outdated it is. I had that in my video about hurricane planning. Got me to think about gas and electrical out there. Are there several utilities to choose from, or is it a monopoly where everybody buys from one company? Quick, short answer is it's a monopoly. There's only one electric company on each of the islands. Gas is an incredible rarity. Gas is really, I don't know if, here's the funny part, Scott. I'll share this with you. This is something that you don't know. The home we live in is one of the very, very few homes anywhere that has gas. We actually have gas in our home. Just about everyone has electrical appliances everywhere.
It's piped. I have it at
Yes.
6th Avenue in Kohala. We're putting in,
Piped.
I have the gas ranges, and it's dirt cheap. I mean, we were paying $25 a month for the gas on the back house.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, long story short, yes, it is definitely it's a monopoly. Like most utilities, I'm not too sure what it's like on the mainland anymore, but that's that. Okay, this is great questions, folks. Just love the feedback. It's just absolutely fabulous. And it looks like we got there was great great response there, Scott. I'm sure that Matthew Daniel Green appreciates that. Excellent. Let's move on to our next question over here, which is the permit process. So this is from Mike in San Francisco, and he says, Mike says, what's the permitting process for a home remodel in Oahu? How much time does it take to obtain a permit? And are there any hoops to jump through? What is the range of cost per square foot for remodeling? So, Scott, how would you kind of answer those sort of series of questions from Mike in San Francisco about that?
Yeah, great questions. And I do have the construction background, so this is perfect. I love answering this.
In fact, you're working on a project right now.
Yeah.
You sent us a video. We should have clipped it, but yeah, right.
Yeah. So from a home remodel standpoint, way easier for permitting. Anytime you do electrical and plumbing, you're required to have a licensed electrician and a licensed plumber do the work. Now, if you're doing plumbing and electrical work, it's easy to get those permits where there's modifications, because essentially the plumber or the electrician goes online and pays for it immediately. They can get the permit, and it's usually not too expensive, maybe around $500. And then they can go ahead and straight do the work. A building inspector will come out, or an electrical or plumbing inspector will come out at some point, or they don't, or they just sign off on it if it's fairly minor. That's easy. If you get into a standard remodel on a home on the interior, where you're replacing the kitchen with a kitchen, replacing flooring with like kind flooring, you aren't required to get a permit, and the companies will just come in and do the work. If you're doing a significant redesign, blowing out, let's not even get into blowing out a wall, but if you're changing up the kitchen in a significant way, you're supposed to get a permit. That could take about 2 to 3 months because you're having to do drawings, but it's an easier process of submitting those plans. Anything on the exterior of the building, meaning siding, windows, or doors, you have to go through a permitting process. You're going to have drawings done and submit. That's a 2 to 3 month process. When you get into structural, or you start making alterations or additions, now you're going the full-blown route, where you're going to have to submit, and you're looking at a 6 to 9 month permitting process. As far as cost per square foot, you can get remodels done $80 a square foot up to about $200 a square foot. You can go beyond that, depending on, it's all about your material finishes at that point. But you're roughly 80 to 200. If you're just doing a standard remodel, 80 to 125 bucks a square foot shouldn't be too difficult. Should be fairly easy.
Excellent. That's it's kind of it's kind of fun, Scott, frankly, to send these questions and kind of hear you sort of like rattle off all the answers. There's definitely sort of an expert, a guy you've been doing this for 20 years now, right? So it's kind of fun to kind of see that. It's always fun to see expertise at work. It really is.
Yeah, to give people a perspective, because I love learning and I love real estate. So I'm constantly, before my second development project, I had 13 construction books sitting on the side of my bedside table. And in under 9 months, I read through every one of them because it's diving in, it's needing to know this stuff. And then you put a fire hose on the end of that construction project from learning, from being out there, from doing framing, from doing foundation work. And that's the kind of thing that I do. And where it does is it translates over here on the real estate side to where I not only have guys, but I also have the expertise now to be able to tell you, this is how this is done. This is what needs to be done. This is how long it's going to take you, which helps the consumer.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent. Let's hit this slide is a great lead into, I think, a really important topic that I is one of the most asked things I get just about all the time, and it's about getting a rental in Hawaii. So let me kind of hit this one. So this is from Ralph and Carly from Washington D.C., and they say, we'd like to rent a single family home furnished while we search for a home in either Oahu, Maui, or Kona. It would be great to have a month-by-month rental or a 6-month rental. Are there homes available with ocean views and maybe a pool in the $3,000 to $6,000 range? And I think what I want to touch on before having a conversation with Scott on this is that I get this all the time. People are saying, "Hey, look, I want to rent somewhere, but I'm having a hard time kind of renting it remotely. People aren't returning my phone calls. I can't seem to kind of do it. How can I get some sort of a rent going on, both for people who are considering moving here permanently and renting, and people buying a home here and they want to rent initially. So this seems to be like a real kind of a big deal. So Scott and I, we talked about this a bit, and we got a few things that we want to kind of share about. So Scott, why don't you kind of get the ball rolling here, and then we'll move on. I've got these slides ready when you want me to show them.
Yeah, I can't speak for Maui and Big Island, because when we spoke with Heidi and Dylan about this, there are a little more restrictions on anybody doing it on the short-term rental side. However, there are areas, especially, homes with a pool, you're going to be able to find them outside of the resort areas or the vacation rental areas on those islands. Here on Oahu, not a problem. The question is cost. There's places in Kailua. I actually looked it up. There's 23 properties for rent with pools that are homes with pools. There's one in Kohala right now, which is one of our nicest neighborhoods, for $5,000 a month. However, that's going to be a longer term lease. So your cost on that, you're probably looking $5,000 minimum and up. 5 to 10 would be kind of the standard, 5 to 10,000 a month. If you're going to go on that shorter term, say month to month, or 2 to 4 months on that rental period. But yeah, you should be able to get one for pool and a view. You'll find it. And I think now is the time to do it, because there's no vacation rental income. So people are looking for ways of getting income. And how are you going to do it? You're going to go to the longer term rents. You're going to go 30 days or more, especially with the quarantine in place. You kind of need to do that. So the opportunity is there.
So you got this slide over here. You just speak to this real quick. Why did you pick this example?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of show the range. We just talked about a house with a pool with views. You're talking 5 to 10 grand probably a month on the shorter term. This is a Waikiki studio rental. This is Marine Surf Waikiki. Great unit, totally renovated, and it's $1,500 a month. You could come and stay there for right now. So that kind of shows you kind of the lower end perspective, but a nice building, secure building. You got amenities, you got the pool. You can see right there on the left, you're a block to walk to Waikiki Beach once you're done with your quarantine. Load up on the groceries and hang there for 2 weeks, and then be able to set out from there.
I didn't realize I didn't know about this earlier, but you said that this is the Marine Surf.
Marine Surf.
The Marine Surf was the first place I stayed at when I first moved to Hawaii. The Marine Surf. That was my first spot. So I'm familiar. That's why I'm smiling. Familiar with this building. This is another one that you have. This is more. You talked about the low and the high end, right? So you want to speak to this one real quick as an example?
Yeah, I'd kind of call this mid-range here. This is the Windsor, which is more towards Ala Moana Beach Parks, kind of in between, close to the Hilton. But it used to be an office building that they converted into condos. It's got a great rooftop pool, workout facility, but this is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2 parking for $4,400 a month, and can be had on the shorter term. You go 2-3 months there if you wanted to. That gives you time to transition, but that gives you an idea of the costing. And then, like I said, we talked about the pool side, the house with the pool at $5,000 to 10 is kind of what you should expect. So that kind of gives people a range, but the opportunities are there. I told you yesterday, when I looked up on Airbnb, there's significant discounts on these things, and the schedules are wide open on a lot of these. So now's the time to negotiate, to be able to, if you wanted to be able to come over on the longer run, 2 to 3 months, say.
Yeah. So again, this all goes into keeping in line with the whole quarantine thing, right? You have to be able to kind of take the 14 days, and you want to follow that as strictly, clearly as you can. It's a real big deal for everybody, and we want to make sure that we're also supporting those rulings and those guidelines. But I think the bottom line, Scott, what I hear you saying is, if you're looking at doing what Ralph and Carly want to do, a 6-month lease, pool and a view for the 3 to 6K range, the answer is, yeah, most certainly you can most certainly do so. And I'm not sure how the inter-island quarantine thing is going to work if you're on, and I don't want to go into that now because I'm not sure about it, but you have to kind of make sure you'd be clear about that. If once you've gone to Oahu, if you've passed quarantine, but then if you go to the other islands, do you have to kind of re-quarantine yourself or not? So that there's some issues about that. But certainly, if you're on Oahu and you're searching around, you can definitely find a place for certainly a 6-month lease. And I don't know what about the month-to-month? Are month-to-months viable, Scott? Do you have any sense of that?
They are. No, they're definitely, and there's definitely a need for them. We got plenty of people that want that scenario. For my rentals, I usually do a 6-month minimum. I would transition that now differently. I would be open to less, but I normally do 6 months because I want to feel out the person. How are they to be in my unit, and what am I as a property manager to you? Am I to your liking? And it gives us a good feeling out period, and it gives you time to come here, get quarantined, start getting familiar with the island, go out and look, find a property, get into escrow for 45 days. 6 months is about a good time frame. 4 to 6 months is about what you need.
Excellent. I'm going to bring up Matthew. Followed up with a couple of things here. Specifically, we're most interested in the Big Island on the dry side. Matthew, you're on the YouTube side. Grab any of the videos in that YouTube channel. In the description, there's a form. You can click on the form, get on our list, because you definitely want to kind of be talking with Dylan, who born and raised and lives on the dry side of the Big Island. We've also got a lot of videos on that channel that talk about the Big Island as well. So definitely with you want to work on that. Scott, real quick, we've talked this in previous videos, but if you could kind of hit this one real fast, how does the cost of building on a lot compare to buying a house?
Yeah, that's a tough comparison. I mean, you're building brand new versus buying something that's a little older that needs maintenance. But yeah, I mean, I can talk in cost per square foot, because part of it depends on what do you acquire the land for, how do you structure your building. But the building costs are typically minimum $200 a square foot to build here. Up to 400 is kind of the general range, and then above that, it will go up to $1,000 a square foot for custom. Once you get above $400 a square foot, you should be more in the significant custom range. But as far as comparing it to that, to me, they're two different animals. When you're buying a resale home, you can move in immediately, or you do some light modifications, light repairs, and there's significantly less energy and effort that has to go into that. You get into new construction, you're going through 6 to 9 months worth of permitting, how long for the design process with your architect, you go back and forth. And then once you get your permits, now you're talking about a year time frame for construction. So you're looking at a 2-year time frame for buying a lot and being able to build and move in on it. That's a completely different animal than buying a resale. Oh,
there you go. The old unmute your mic. I should be better at that. Anyway, so let's do this. Let's see. We got about 17 minutes left. I think I want to switch to. I think there's a couple of quick questions that have come in. I want to pop this into a lightning round. So what we want to do with our lightning round, Scott, this is like really, really quick, really, really fast answers, quick questions, fast answers. And we may have actually kind of covered them to one degree, but let's just kind of hit this one first. First is the cost of utilities. So Babette, who's apparently from Honolulu on the Big Island, says, how do the cost of utilities like electric, water, sewage, internet, cable, etc., differ from island to island? Does each county pretty much pay the same as a whole, or does it vary according to location or zip code on each island? Scott, what's the quick answer on that one?
Yeah, I'm not sure how the outer island utility costs run. I mean, as far cable and things like that should be pretty standard, but electric, I'm not sure. I mean, for the condo, for this kind of condo size condo running an AC 100 to 150 a month for the electric, you know, a single family home is probably going to run you 2 to 450 depending on how much you run that AC. If you got PV, then you can, you know, photovoltaic, then you can significantly reduce that cost. And then, like I mentioned before, I have the client in Kohala who has 5,000 square feet and a grand piano and needs, you know, everything climatized to a certain temperature, and he was running 1,500 a month on the electric bill.
So I think the answer is that, you know, it's not the same company. It's not, one thing's for sure, it's not the exact same rate. The rates do vary, but it's going to vary by a lot of things. It depends on what you've got, but there is no, you know, one rate or one size fits all. It will be different. Next quick question from Geneva, Switzerland. Which neighborhoods in Oahu have fiber optic internet? Now, interesting to me is like, I wonder what's the real question over there, because I don't know if you know, why would you want, I have a technical background, so why would you want fiber optic internet? I think what they're really asking for is high speed internet. You know, I can quickly answer that. It really does depend very much on the neighborhood. There's a lot of varying factors. How close you are to there's various parts of the way the network is configured on Oahu. Some parts of Oahu have, you know, gigabit available speeds. Gigabit is extraordinarily high speeds. Other parts of the island have lesser speeds. Some parts are only served by cable modems. Some parts are served by the phone company. Some parts are served by the phone company. Some parts are served by the cable company. It really does depend. But the general answer is what you're really, I believe you're asking for, is which neighborhoods on Oahu have high speed connections. And I would say it varies. You have to find out, but there are neighborhoods all over Oahu. Oahu, probably more than any of the other islands, that have a high speed internet. Let's get the next one here. And Scott, if you want to kind of follow up on my previous one on this next question, feel free, but let's just kind of move on to this next one. Illegal improvements. So this is from Joanna from Cantwell, Alaska. And she says, she asks, if a property has unpermitted improvements, such as additional bedrooms or buildings, how can that affect new owners? Can things be approved retroactively? Yeah, I heard the chuckle there, Scott. Go for it.
Yeah, it's actually unpermitted things here in Hawaii are fairly common, especially with, you know, people want to avoid the nightmare of the permitting process. A lot of times they'll do that, and I would say it's kind of an accepted practice here in Hawaii versus what we grew up with on the mainland. Can it affect you? Absolutely. Getting a loan, the appraisers aren't going to consider it as a part of the square footage. If it's too egregious, then the lender could say, we're not going to lend on this. We're not going to give you a loan. It could be, or it has to be removed prior to you getting the loan. So absolutely, it can affect you. Can you get it done retroactively? Yep. You got to, which is a little harder process. They're going to scrutinize you more. And so something that maybe was added 10 years ago, essentially what's going to happen, you're going to have to get the plans and permits, and everything's going to have to be brought up to today's code. So even if they built it 10 years ago unpermitted, to that day's code, you may have to change it. It could be your electrical, your plumbing, all has to change.
So it sounds like what you're saying, if I could summarize that, it sounds like if you've got something that was built, whenever this thing was built, if it was not permitted, you're going to go through the permitting process as if you built it today, and it's going to be evaluated as if you built it today. Is going to be
Correct.
Essentially. Got it.
And I would probably say the inspectors are going to scrutinize you a little more because they're going to be like, okay, you didn't go through the natural process to begin with.
That's right. So why didn't you go through that the last time? That means you tried to skip over something. So we're going to make sure extra special that you kind of, whatever it was that you skipped or didn't skip, you're not going to get this time. Great. Hey, we got a quick question that came in from Gina, and she says, hey, Scott, do you have a web page that shows your rental condos? Thanks. Gina, you got to click through. You could either pop this onto, well, it's on Facebook. You want to get on, if you can get on our newsletter, we'd be happy to, I'll be more than happy to connect you with Scott, who can kind of pull up a couple of those rentals and work with you on it. Happy to do it. I would say I'll follow, There's a couple ways. I'm just trying to think about how to do it, but we'll follow up with you, Gina, and get you that information. I'll hook you up with Scott. Scott.
Yeah, no, I don't have a rental page because I technically do sales, but I'm a problem solver, and this is a common occurrence that we have to deal with, and we figure it out. It's case by case. What are your needs, right?
Great, thanks. Let's take another quick one here. We got Paul says, thanks for the input. Another question. Can I build a small home on Big Island with approved drawings from licensed architect here in Seattle, or do they have to be approved by architect there? Now, I don't know if you can speak to that specifically for the Big Island because there's different laws on the laws, the permitting laws are different, but how would that apply on Oahu at the very least? And if you could speak to the Big Island, Scott, please do, but I just, Dylan, our Big Island expert is not here, unfortunately.
Yeah, they should be consistent in this portion. I don't know this is answer exactly, but my thoughts, what should happen is DPP or Department of Planning and Permitting on each island is going to want to see either an engineer stamp or an architect stamp from someone in the state of Hawaii. So you can even use a drafts person to draft your plans and have an engineer review it, Hawaii engineer review it and stamp it and submit it. And they're fine with that. And that drafts person could be anywhere in the world. And I have friends who are architects in Seattle, but he's also licensed here. But I don't know that exact answer, but that's the common sense answer to me.
So the answer is yes, they do have to be approved by someone here, an engineer, somebody here has to approve it. And that makes complete sense.
I believe so. I'm not totally positive on that.
Yeah. And I'm not, fair enough. That's a fair enough disclaimer, but it makes complete sense because there's factors in Hawaii that someone in Seattle doesn't have a clue on, like lava zones, for example.
And the state wants to get their money from, they don't want a whole bunch of outside people coming in and doing the work. They want to protect the local workforce. So there's going to be barriers of entry from that.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Excellent. Why don't we we're moving on to, I think we're moving closer to, let's see, we got 9 minutes to go. Let's move to our other feature of the show. This is our Diamonds and Deals feature. So the point of this part is to show you some really cool properties that they're either diamonds or deals. The idea is to not so much to kind of show you properties for sale, although they are for sale. It's really kind of show you some aspirational stuff that we think is really, really cool. Scott, why don't you let's open up here what we got here. Tell us about this what's your this diamond and deal or diamond or deal. What do you got here, Scott?
Yeah, so a little bit about the neighborhood. This sits up above, and you can see it from the lower left picture here. It sits up on the hillside out of the urban core. It's still considered urban core, but it's quiet. This is called St. Louis Heights, and this is the Chaminade Terrace side of St. Louis Heights, which means you're lower on the hillside. You have underground utilities. You have wider roads. It's the more desirable section. It's easy to get up and get down. You're not burning up your brakes going all the way to the top of St. Louis Heights. This is a significant fixer. But incredible views. Somebody needs to come in with some creativity. You're looking, you look out from your living room window, you have Diamond Head all the way to Punch Bowl, swinging all the way across Honolulu, Waianae Mountain Range in the distance. You see everything, planes taking off at the airport. So at night, this thing is amazing. If they had the fireworks going on Friday nights, you could sit on your lanai, sip your cocktail and see that. It's going to take probably $200,000 to $250,000, maybe $300,000 to put into it to get it to creative, back to where somebody wants it. But the value should be 1.4 to 1.55 after that.
So just let's take in the view here. I know so pictures don't do it justice, of course. Actually, as you were talking about that, I thought, we should do like a panorama shot there next time, so to show you the full view. But that view, that one picture on the lower left where we're looking at downtown Honolulu, that is a picture that's been taken. I'm assuming that picture was taken from the lanai or from the balcony of the house. So we're looking, there's two shots there, right? The one above is like from the inside of the living room looking out at that balcony or lanai, as we say in Hawaii. And I'm assuming that picture below is like you're standing on that lanai and looking out. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. And you can see in the one up above it, the city skyline is perfectly framed into that in that window. The house was an original, or it was a custom architectural design back in the 1960s. So they designed it really well at that time for capturing all this. And now it needs someone to come in and with a blank slate, blank canvas and put a new imprint on it.
And I could just I can only imagine the evenings over there with the having the city lights has got to be just really stunning. I mean, it's beautiful views day in and day out.
Yeah, this sits almost straight back from Diamond Head to give kind of people a perspective. And if you get up on the top of the hill, the ridge here, it's interesting. You're probably about 5 degrees cooler. They're
right.
up towards the top. And I've sat at a friend's house on his lanai having cocktails, watching those fireworks, sitting out, watching the sunset go down. And I don't hear anything. And you're in the urban core, right? That's classified as the urban core. 5 minutes down the hill, and I'm right in the heart of everything. But all we hear is the wind through the trees and the birds chirping, and it's super relaxing. So you can get that peaceful feeling up on those ridges with incredible views, have the access to the city, but you don't feel like you're in the heart of the city.
I think that's one of the most, well, Lauren agrees. Lauren would love that house, and I'm with you, Lauren. I think that's the part, one of the things you touched on this, Scott. I think one of the things I really love about Oahu is that you can be sitting kind of like on the brink, and you got this, urban view, city view, but yet you yourself are sitting in like a jungle. You're like right in nature. That always really struck me when I first moved here, and I would take these hikes. There's some amazing hikes in that area, and you'd swear you're in the middle of a rainforest in the middle of nowhere, but you look over it and they're like, you could peek through the trees and boom, you see the city right there. It's like, wow, that's so trippy, because that's not the mainland experience. In the mainland experience, the cities are sprawling. So if you can see the city, you're in the city. There's no place where you got that.
Yeah, and at the top of almost every one of these ridges is some kind of either park or access to hiking trails. Right up off of Peter Street at the top of St. Louis Heights, there's the actual park, and then there's a ton of trails, and they all connect up to the top of the Ko'olaus. And I actually know some people that have hiked the top of the Ko'olaus from ridge to ridge to ridge, and it's a little bit dangerous, but yeah, I mean, there's some great parks and quiet spaces up there that you can get out into nature and really enjoy what Oahu has to offer.
It's really amazing. Cool. Hey folks, it looks like we're coming to the end of another show. This really went well. I loved all your questions. It was great interaction. Scott, thanks for doing this with me again. It's great fun. I want to promote livinginhawaii.com. If you haven't gone to the website yet, make sure you go there, get on the newsletter. We send out newsletter updates every Wednesday. We tell you about the show that's coming up. We're going to see you in 2 weeks at this show. Scott, any kind of final closing thoughts you want to share with everybody?
No, I just appreciate everybody joining in and submitting the questions. I love answering them on the fly. It keeps me sharp.
It's a lot of fun. It's actually a lot of fun. It keeps the show moving. All right, folks. George. Hey, George. We're glad you're here with us, and we're going to see where our audience is. Our fun audience is growing, and we look forward to seeing you all here next time around. Yeah, Jim. Thanks, Jim, for being here. We love your support, and I guess with that, we're going to bid you aloha.